ECDL Advanced Access Lesson 19 Parameter Queries. If a query is being run frequently and all that's changing is the selection criteria for one or two fields, then a parameter query can be used. A parameter query displays a dialog box prompting for the criteria information. Once the information is entered, the query is performed, with the entered value being used as the selection criteria. The next time the query is run, a different value can be entered and used, without having to change the query design. Parameters can be used together with other types of query, such as partial queries using wildcards and range queries. A query can contain as many parameter values as required. Simply set a parameter value for each required field. Every time the query is run, a dialog box will appear for each field that contains a parameter value. The dialog boxes will appear in the order of the field names on the query grid from left to right. Okay, so let's put that into practice. Let's open the premises database, and we want to start a new query in Design View based on the commercial table. So create, query design, and make sure we're selecting the commercial table. And we wish to add the following fields to the grid: location, address, type of premises, and price. To create the parameter query, in the location field, enter the following text as the criteria. Open square brackets, enter, area, required, and then close the square brackets. While we're here, it's worth mentioning that when we are deciding what prompt text to use between the squared brackets, don't make it the same as any field name. For example, location would not work because there's a field with that name. But what we could do is we could put location with a question mark after it. That would be fine. Okay, so let's run the query. And a dialog box appears. Notice that the text entered in the criteria appears as the prompt text. The value entered into the entry box will be used as the criteria for location. Let's enter Dockland. And then press OK. The query is run, showing all the premises in Dockland. OK, let's take this a stage further. Switch back to Design View, and in the Type of Premises column, in the Criteria section, enter the following as the criteria. Open square brackets, which premises type, question mark, and then close the square brackets. Let's run the query again. This time in the area prompt, enter Riverside Complex, and then click OK. In the second prompt, enter Office Premises, and then click OK. So we're now presented with those premises within the Riverside complex that are office premises. And save the query as areas and leave it open. Okay, let's move on to maximum and minimum for the purposes of obtaining values within a particular range. So parameters can be used with range selections and logical operators. So let's return to Design View, and I suppose an easier way of doing it than the way I've done it before is just clicking down here onto Design View. Delete all the existing criteria. And we're now going to add a new criteria in the price field. Greater than or equals, open brackets, from lower value, close brackets, that's the square brackets, and less than or equal to, open square brackets, to upper value, close the square brackets, and then let's run the query. When the first dialog box appears, enter 100,000, and for the upper value, enter 200,000. Then press OK, and the query will show all premises with values that lie between 100,000 and 200,000 pounds. We now wish to save this query as values. So, save as. We're going to call it values as a query, and then press OK. So now we'll find that on the left hand side we have two queries. One of them is called areas and one of them values. Okay, let's close the query and then close the database. Okay, so we've discussed parameter queries and we've looked at range queries. In the next lesson we're going to discuss using wildcards in a query, and that will bring to an end the section on queries. Okay, that will be lesson 20. I hope you've enjoyed this so far, and I look forward to seeing you next time.